One of the nice things about homesteading is that there's always something to do, no matter the weather or time of year. That may not sound like a nice thing. If not, then homesteading might not be for you. However, I've been lovingly described as a beaver due to my productivity and the fact that I just can't seem to stop working on projects. There are worse animals to be compared to. Beavers are just cool. Anyway, even when the sky is pouring down rain, there's something enjoyable to do at nights in Weekends Homestead. Right now, it's time to trellis in the hoop house. I tried to get Ziggy to hang out in here where it's dry, but also not step all over the cucumbers, or the tomatoes, or mess up the mulch. He decided he'd rather hang out in the rain than put up with all the rules. This is probably the activity that has caused me to put the most holes in hoop house plastic. The force required to puncture this pipe, even with a self-tapping metal screw, and the fact that the pipe is round, meaning the tip of the screw wanders until it gets started, basically guarantees you'll slip and put a drill through your very expensive plastic at some point. I recommend you don't do this job when there are children around. No matter how large your hoop house is, it won't muffle the sound of you swearing. Well, I'm not sure if this is going to come out. It's pretty dark out now. Been out in the hoop house trellising, and I'm super psyched because last year, not having the hoop house covered, the tomatoes just didn't produce like there was. Like, I've had tomatoes for years. Once I got a hoop house, once I learned how to trellis, I had great tomatoes for a long time, and last year was really disappointing. So this year, I'm already way ahead of where I was last year. Even though the tomatoes didn't grow as well as seedlings as they normally do, they've jumped up. The cucumbers are the same. The peppers in this hoop house are also the same. They're really going gangbusters. Not sure what's up in the little hoop house. They are not doing as well. I don't know if there's something wrong with the soil in there or what, but the rest of the crops over there seem to be okay. Anyway, everything in here is awesome, and it just feels so good to have stuff trellised and mulched and have the irrigation down, especially in the hoop house, because I really depend on tomatoes and cucumbers. Cucumbers are sort of the thing that Emily loves, which, if I'm producing stuff, peppers too. The kids love peppers. Emily loves peppers in a salad. So if I'm producing those kinds of things, she's happy with me gardening, spending so much time out here. But tomatoes are really my deal. And so to have a lot of tomatoes, I'll be able to make sauce, salsa, you name it. Have fresh tomatoes off the vine. Tomato sandwiches are pretty much my favorite thing on earth. So anyway, I'm gonna hopefully show you all what it looks like in here with it all trellised, but it might be too dark, so I'll have to come out in the morning and look at it again, which won't hurt my feelings. It looks great. Yeah, it's not coming out too great, but you can at least see I've got 2 rows trellised. And this is probably the earliest I've ever trellised tomatoes, which is remarkable because I feel like I put them in late. This one is only, let's say, probably 16 inches high, and I haven't put a lot of tension on the twine yet because the stem is not big enough to support that. So if I put tension on the twine, this is just going to ride up and those branches won't support it. Eventually this branch will get thick enough and the stem will get thick enough that it will stop this from riding up the plant, and then I can tension this. I put this knot in to adjust, I put the 1/2 inch in to adjust so I can tighten this. And then my hope is that the tomatoes grow all the way up this twine to the point where I need to lower them, and that's what this is for. So I put this little loop in here so that I can then cut this. I'll take another piece of twine, cut this off, attach the twine to it, and actually lay, come on now, there we go. Actually lay, when the tomato plant is full, lay it down and then re-trellis it up over here, so every single tomato plant will get essentially laid down and then trellised up. And what that will do is give me hopefully an extension on the season, because when the tomatoes get up to the plastic, it's not good. So they need to be lowered. The other option is, I've seen people, rather than lay them down laterally and go up to the next hoop, they'll actually just coil the tomato around on the ground like a hose. I haven't had much luck with that. Usually by the time I'm ready to do that, the tomato stem at the bottom is like that big and it won't coil very easy. It's not very flexible. But anyway, the whole point of this was just to show how awesome this looks. And it's hard to see in the dark, but to me, it looks wonderful. So I'm gonna head inside now and get out of the rain and the bugs. Well, we're having some iffy weather. Storms keep blowing through every half an hour, I guess. We just got home from a trip to the farmer's market in a nearby town that we love. On the way home, we drove through some pretty serious rain. Then it was sunny when we got here. So I got all ready to come out and do some work for the afternoon. Kids went down to the camp with their grandparents. I was just about to do some composting and then the skies opened up. But I could see blue. I think this front's about to pass through. Another nice feature of having hoop houses scattered around the garden is you have a quick place to duck in when it's pouring. Stopped raining again. Blue sky coming. Back to it.
Part of my experiment with transitioning to no-till is an effort to be less panicky about weeds and vegetation. Normally, this would stress me right out. To be honest, it still does. But instead of bringing in a tiller and decimating the soil and biology within it, I'm going to mow all of this, which is weeds and winter spinach that long since bolted. Then, once it's down to ground level, I'm going to blanket this area with compost on top of all that greenery. On these particular beds, I'm going to be using this windrow of comforter compost. I'll be splitting it into thirds. 1/3 will stay where it was composted, 1/3 will go in this bed, and the final third will go into this bed. We'll see how that works. Even after all these years of farming, and I've been at this for nearly 2 decades, I don't understand why I still think I can mow over hoses without hitting them. I guess that's why I have an entire bucket of miscellaneous hose repair supplies. However, those supplies are getting low. The only coupling I had left is far too small, which means I have to make a trip to the hardware store. While inspecting the comforter compost and dismantling the trellising around it, I found several volunteer morning glories. I don't want to waste such a beautiful plant, so I'm going to dig them up, throw them in this pot of compost, and plant them as the spirit moves me and I find good locations with stuff upon which it can climb.